What we want to do in this video is to configure a Dhcp server and a Dhcp relay agent. This router will be our Dhcp server and this router will be our relay agent. Over here we're going to have a DNS server and a web server. We'll try it out to see if our options work when we get it configured. Before we start, a couple of things we're going to need to know is what are the excluded addresses. These guys down here are probably going to have static IP addresses. If they have static IP addresses, we want to exclude them from the Dhcp pool so that we don't have to go in and configure assigned addresses for them. We're also going to need to know the default gateway. How are we going to get out of these networks? And this one is going to be the 2.1, and then this one is going to be the 3.1. And then we're going to need the DNS server for where we're going to resolve names to IP addresses. So those are the three things that we're going to configure on the Dhcp server. The relay agent, as you remember, really only needs a helper address. It's just got to relay the broadcasts to the Dhcp server. So with that little overview, let me get rid of this stuff. Let's get into the configuration. I'm going to go in here to the command line and hopefully be able to see all this. I've tried to make the fonts big enough so that they are legible. So we're going to go in here and do an enable, and then we'll go into config T. We can do the tab key to get terminal. And then we're going to, the first thing we wanted to do was do our excluded addresses. So we'll do an IP, Dhcp, and you can use the tab key. What can we do here? We can do the pool, relay, agent parameters, or excluded addresses. What we're doing here is excluded addresses, and let's do 10 of them. So we'll do 192.168.3.1 our gateway until we get to 192.168.3.10. So we have excluded addresses 1 through 10. On the other network, let's do the same, and I'll just use the up arrow key and go back here, tab back, and you can do the control A. We want to go back to the ending, control F to go to the end. So we'll do from 2.1 to 2.10. So we have now excluded our IP addresses. The next thing we need to do is to create the pools, and we're going to need two pools. One for the address that is direct for the networks directly connected to our router, the .2 network, and one for our remote network, the one that's going to go through the Dhcp relay agent. So let's configure the IP Dhcp, and then the options here do the pool, and then we got to name it. Let's call it local. And then you notice that how it came up and said, oh, you got an incomplete command. Incomplete command means I'm going to have some options, so I can use the question mark for the options. So we're going to name this pool local, and we'll call it network 192.168.3.0, and then we have to give the subnet mask, the question mark subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Then we need a default gateway. In this case, it's going to be default router. So it's going to be 192.168.3.1. And all we have left there is a carriage return. And then we also said we wanted the DNS server. Let's look at the other options that are here. We got the default router, DNS server, exit, network, network number, and mask no, and then options, raw Dhcp options. But the other thing that we want to configure here is the DNS server, and it's going to be 192.168.2.3. To do it. Now we also need to now configure the next pool. Let's do an exit, we'll go up one, and we can do an IP DHCP pool, and we'll call this one real local because it's the one that's actually attached to our device here. And then we're going to have the network. It's going to be 192.168.2.0 with a 255.255.255.0 subnet mask. The default router is going to be 192.168.2.1, and the DNS server is going to be the same one, 192.168.2.3. So we should, with any luck, let's close this and let's go over here to, I have two machines here configured as a DHCP client, so let's go to this guy. I have a request fail. Let's see if we can do any better here. So now we have gotten an IP address 192.168.2.11, which we excluded 1 to 10. Subnet mask is correct. Default gateway is correct. DNS server is correct. Let's try out our DNS just for grins and giggles here. 2.4 is an HTTP server. So if we go into this guy and do his HTTP, and let's do what is it? I made an address, but now I forgot what I put in here. So we'll go in and look at services and look at DNS myhost.me. You can put whatever you want in the DNS server, and then use that to get from one to the other. So we'll do myhost.me, and this is what the Cisco Packet Tracer web page looks like. So we have now configured the DHCP server. Next step, let's look at this guy. He should not be getting IP addresses. And we can look at him, and we still have, we'll try to renew, and it should still fail again. It may take a few seconds to do that, but we can see up here that we have an IP DHCP request fail. So what I need to configure on this one, and I need to configure it on this interface, this interface, which is Fast Ethernet 00, right here, FA00, is an IP helper address. So I'll go in here, enable config T, and then we'll go to interface Fast Ethernet 0/0 and IP helper, IP helper address 192.168.1.2. So that should be configured. While we're here, show some configurations. The biggest one is the IP route, show IP route. And let's see, if we do the show command, it probably would work better, wouldn't it? Show IP route. We have a static route which says that everything goes to 1.2, and what I have set these up, since there's only two of them, this one has a default static route and this one has a default static route, so they send everything to the next interface. So the next thing is, and it's already got the address 192.168.3.16, is the address that it has now received. So our systems seem to be working. I guess we could try some simple pings here, since we have those. So we can ping 192.168.2.4, and let's see if we get a response from it. Looking good. There we go. So we do have communication. Well, it's a myhost.me. Let's try and see if our DNS and all those other things are working. myhost.me, and maybe it's not going to work. It just took it a little while. I did pause it while I was waiting and waiting and waiting. No need for all of the silence. So we did get there with the myhost.me. So our default gateway is working, our DNS server is working, our routing is working. So we have now configured a DHCP server in a Cisco router and a DHCP relay agent, because DHCP relay agent obviously has got to be able to intercept the discover message and relay it to the DHCP server. So that is the how to do the configuration of DHCP and DHCP relay agent.